I hate eating stuff on sticks in videos and pictures.
Because it's like a penis. At this point, we only had about a half day left in Osaka, so we were headed to Coco Curry House for lunch. But first, I had to stop and grab a dongo, which I saw along the way. I'm probably going to get slack for this, but I am not a huge fan. They were just a little too doughy for me and not quite as sweet as I expected. Coco Curry House was just as amazing as the first time. It did not disappoint. I got the same dish with the chicken and the croqueta. I also added this chili garlic and then these other little crunchy things. Chef's kiss. Then we headed back to the Kuromon market one more time. I had to get more of these amazing crunchy strawberries. Of course, I'm addicted. We fell victim to another vending machine. This one was for Pokemon cards, and I got the cutest Pokemon card. I don't know which one it is, but it's a unicorn, and I love it. Next, I had to get this stick of king crab and the Kobe beef I had been eyeballing every single day when we walked by because this was the first thing we passed on the way in from our Airbnb. This giant hunk of king crab was only about $7. And it was about $10 for the 2 Kobe beef skewers. You could choose to have Kewpie mayo put on it, which of course I did.
That's so good. I wish you could eat beef. Not a giant crab. He is.
Nice.
I hate eating stuff on sticks in videos and pictures.
Because it's like a penis.
So this was good, but it really needed garlic butter instead of just a little bit of mayo, maybe some extra seasoning, something like that. The Kobe beef, however, was top notch. I would definitely get it again, but I would skip this if I went back. On the way back to the Airbnb, we stopped by our trusty 7-Eleven where I picked up an iced cafe latte and all the snacks we would need for our train ride from Osaka to Kyoto.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. This machine made the perfect iced latte, and then off to the side they actually had these little sugar containers of liquid sugar. That way it would actually mix in, unlike a sugar packet. We packed up and left our Airbnb, then headed to Osaka Station where we took the JR train from Osaka to Kyoto. The first stop I made in Kyoto was the Krispy Kreme inside of the station. I am a huge donut fan, so you know I had to grab me a few. I got a plain glazed and then 2 of those super cute dragon ones, one for me and one for Priscilla. You know I love any opportunity to try out a great donut. I mean, look how cute these are. Our first night in Kyoto, we stayed at a capsule hotel that had a spa, aka an onsen, and this might be my favorite place we stayed the entire trip. When you first get in, there's lockers to put your shoes in. They give you slippers. You check in, they hand you an informational sheet, and then you head up to your dormitory area. This is the female area, and this is where the individual capsule bunks are. The first capsule hotel I ever stayed in was in Singapore, but this one was way better. Another cool feature they had was this lounge area where they had free food and drinks. It was mostly soups and whatnot, but I think they had other stuff as well. So I got me some soup to go with my sushi that I had got at the market earlier, and my dragon donut for dessert. I was also excited to see they had jelly sake. It's really hard to find, and this one wasn't free. You actually had to pay for it, but it was worth it because it's one of my favorite things ever. This entire bar area was all free though, and I don't know what this drink was. I wish I could find it and bring it back to the US because it was so good. And I topped it with this seltzer lemonade thingy, and it made a phenomenal cocktail. They also had this cool area full of Japanese comic books and also some massage chairs, which were much needed after all the walking we had been doing. Of course, we took advantage of the onsen and spa. These are the only photos and videos I could get, which were not my own, but you do have to go in fully nude, so of course, cameras and phones are not allowed. And I promise it is not as scary as it sounds. Everybody does it, it's very normal there, so don't let that deter you, even if you are shy or timid. And it was basically empty when we were there, anyways. They also gave you these lounge sets that everybody wore around. They're not really made for American bodies, but I wore it for a little bit before promptly getting into my PJs before bed. You know, I had to start the next morning off with an iced latte from the machine in our capsule hotel. These machines were everywhere and they truly kept me going. And at this point, please just judge us, but we went back to Ichiran for more ramen because we just couldn't get enough of our favorites that we found day one. I got basically the exact same thing I got the first time, but I do believe I got it a little spicier this time. I also got this extra garlic for it and probably an extra egg or two because these eggs are so good. I also got dessert this time. It was an almond pistachio jello pudding type thing with a matcha drizzle on it. It wasn't overly sweet, which I loved. It had an interesting but nice texture, and I think it even had almond extract, which is my favorite thing ever. And I knew this would be our last time at Ichiran, so I decided to get some instant Ichiran to take home. After lunch, we headed to the Fushimi Ward, which is where the location of our next Airbnb was. This was a 100-year-old traditional Japanese house called a Machiya, and somehow I can't find any pictures of my own of the outside of this place, so this was from Airbnb. We got there really early, but luckily the owners of the Airbnb were kind enough to let us drop our bags off early so we could go explore. And you know, finding a little treat is always a priority for me, so first stop was this little bubble tea place right by the train stop. A few steps away from there, I saw this woman grilling up meats outside of this indoor-outdoor restaurant, and they had chicken skin, which I absolutely love, so I got me some of that, and it was so good. There are so many of these type of things all over the place in Japan, and it's such a good way to get inexpensive souvenirs. This was only a few yen. You stick your hand in there, pick one out, and it gives you a fortune. Thankfully for me, this fortune was a little more fortunate than the bad luck fortune I had at the temple in Tokyo. Next, it was time for lunch. We found this little area that was a little food court-ish, but like in the best way possible. It had quite a few really cool restaurants all grouped together and then a central eating area. So I was able to try multiple things. I got this Kobe beef sushi with sake, these little chicken tender bite things, and then we finished that with the cutest ice cream that had a little Torii Gate decorative cookie on it. After lunch, we headed back to our Airbnb to actually check in. Like I said, I don't have any pictures or videos from it for some reason, or at least not any good ones. So these are just really low quality photos I had to steal from Airbnb. But it was a really cool place, and I wanted to share how it actually looked. These are newer pictures, so I do think they have made some improvements since we stayed. Like the beds are actually on bed frames now versus ours were on the floor, which I thought was just a traditional thing that they do, but maybe they just hadn't fully completed the Airbnb yet, which was fine because it was still super comfortable. But this was our room upstairs, and these really sketchy stairs to get up and down. They keep the toilet separate from the actual shower area, which I think is cool. So this was off to the left. In the middle was this outdoor bath area, And obviously, being in January, it was way too cold for us to use, but it was really cool. And then this was the shower area. These are super old traditional houses, so it is freezing inside. Luckily, they had heaters for us and then split units that also heated, but when we first got there, it was so cold, as you can see. It was like 60 degrees every morning in here, and the only thing blocking you from the outside and the inside of this area is this one little wooden glass door, so it would get really, really cold. But overall, we really loved it, and it was such a cool experience, especially for only $76 for 2 nights. And of course, we had to keep it traditional by watching some sumo wrestling before bed.